I'll give you one example here. If we were to find a therapy that could even delay the disease for 5 years, that would halve the incidence of Alzheimer's disease. So we would go and reduce the amount of Alzheimer's disease by 50%, even if we could just delay the disease by 5 years. So that's cause for optimism. These do not have to be effectively cures that we're looking for immediately. Even something that seems a modest step forward is actually a monumental step forward if we could make that happen.
The Acton Institute conference speakers, including scientific and ethical specialists, think that the Catholic Church's long-standing teachings on the dignity of the human person and the family can help shape our responses to the coming challenges. Professor Daniel Solmasi of the University of Chicago and member of the US Presidential Commission for Bioethical Issues.
Much of this conference has been about the demographic shift that has led to an increasing number of people who are elderly constituting the population, about some of the costs of caring for them and how to do that. But one of the consequences of all of this has been the increasing longevity and the technology of medicine leading to people surviving long enough to get debilitating diseases like Alzheimer's disease or other neurologic diseases that diminish their ability to make healthcare decisions for themselves. In combination with the vast technology that we now have in medicine, it makes even more important the proper way to decide how it is that we're going to use our technology wisely when the time comes to be able to discontinue life-sustaining treatments and when it's proper to continue them, and particularly making those decisions on behalf of people who are no longer able to speak for themselves. This has become an incredible burden. 80% of the people who die in American hospitals now die after some decision being made to stop some kind of treatment. This is occurring in a situation in which we have multiple competing pressures. On the one hand, there's a great push for euthanasia. On the other hand, this technology could allow us to continue people's lives for very long periods of time. The Catholic position has always been the via media, the way in between those, rejecting euthanasia, but also rejecting the necessity of continuing life-sustaining treatments forever and ever, recognizing that this life is not our total fulfillment. The question becomes how we do that well on behalf of people who can no longer speak for themselves. I think that we've had some problems, at least in the United States, with the way we've tried to do it for the last 30 years, which has been this sort of fanatical, almost, emphasis on the autonomy of patients, on having their own particular wishes about whether to not have a treatment continued or discontinued. Those things like living wills or another structure called substituted judgment, I think have not been sensitive enough to the complexity of this decision-making process, nor to the way in which people actually make decisions. Further, it privileges a particular way of making decisions, and this emphasis on autonomy as being the total way to make decisions is really, I think, antithetical to good Catholic Christian decision-making. We don't the fact that we choose something doesn't make it good. We choose things because we think that they're good. Autonomy becomes the context rather than the content of morality. And so what we're proposing is a different way to look at how we're making decisions, that we would not try to focus on the particular preferences of a patient who might, the absurd question, did you think when you were 50 years old about whether you would want to have Bactrim, an antibiotic given for a certain kind of pneumonia, if you also had cancer and Alzheimer's disease and were 93 years old. I mean, no one has that kind of specificity. What families can provide is the opportunity to talk to physicians about who the person actually is, what their pain thresholds might be, who they love, who the relationships are. Physicians will have a particular role in recognizing both the particularity of the patient, but also the opportunity to make recommendations to family members who are making these decisions on behalf of the patients, taking into account their wisdom in terms of clinical experience, because what we're after in the end always is a question that my mentor always taught me to ask, which is, what is the right and the good healing act for this patient in these circumstances? That I think the traditional and best way to make these decisions is in the context of families. They love and care for the person. They can inform the doctors about that person's values and their pain threshold, their psychological makeup, their spiritual goals, and can help the doctors to make the suggestions and the recommendations that are right for that person. But of course, we are in an era in which families are breaking down, social structures are breaking down to the point that we sometimes are forced to try to make decisions on behalf of people who cannot speak for themselves and have no one to speak for them. My model doesn't really address that. It addresses the particular setting when we do have people, which is still the majority, who can help to make decisions on the part of the patient on behalf of them. It means, though, that there may be fewer people, given the demographic shifts that we've heard about in this conference, to participate in that. It may mean, because they're separated from each other for a variety of social reasons, that we need to help them come together as a family, where they maybe didn't for a long time, living in different cities. Now siblings and cousins or whoever it is come together to try to make a decision on behalf of that person, a better model for them to be able to do so than the current models, which are based on lists of preferences, which are abstract, can't really predict what's actually in the best interest of the patient at that particular time.
The changes in demographic data we are witnessing demand the scrutiny and careful consideration of today's policymakers and citizens alike. The traditional Christian notion of family love can be a starting point to a solution.
To promote human value, an esteem of human life, to promote the welcome of life in the families, no? To show the beauty of what is a new existence in life, and especially in a family. In a family, that can help people understand that having more and more children is not a source of poorness, but a source of riches. No. Now, obviously, if you had these people present, you would not have the problem we had this morning, no, when we were talking about financial consequences of financing the old people, their sickness, their age, their pension, and everything. No?
In terms of policy decisions, we need to break free from the vicious cycle of family breakdown and state intervention, and find new solutions that allow us to adapt the goods of medical technology and market economics, instruments that have already changed the way we care for each other for the common good.